On 2B2T, I have been to many bases, but I have also made some solo bases of my own. When I first joined the server in 2018, I mostly just walked around spawn, and the same in 2019. However, in January of 2020, I begun going down the Positive X highway. Then, after walking down the highway for a long time, on the 1st of June 2020, I made my first temporary base. At this base, I made a watermelon farm so I could get some food, but I would eventually leave the base on the 3rd of June 2020. I then went back on the highway so I could make another base further out. I then made my second base of 2020 and I made it underground. At this base, I purchased priority queue for the first time, and I made a much larger watermelon farm. And I was at the base until I eventually left on the 12th of October 2020. Both of the bases I made in 2020 made it into the 256,000 block world download. But after I left my base in 2020, I would enter the nether side of the highway and continue going down the highway. And I wouldn't make another solo base until I got 1.8 million blocks down the highway in March of 2022. This base would also be the first location where I got a hacked client. I also revisited the base in January of 2024. And within that time, at least one person found my base. But in April of 2022, I made it to the world border. But then about 1 hour later, I would go back to spawn. In 2022, I joined a group named the SBA and I would also build random things around the server. But in September of 2022, I made a small base on an island. And in August of 2024, I revisited the base. And as of August of 2024, the book I made in 2022 wasn't gone. And in 2023, I made a base named Obsidian Town for this YouTube channel. Then on the 9th of December 2023, I made my first banner. And I needed a wool farm so I could make more of the banner. And the first location only lasted for about a week. But on the 14th of December 2023, I made the second location. And I would eventually name the second location Baseazon. Like Amazon, but for a Minecraft base. And the base would also get on the archive server. And while I was making this base, the server updated to 1.20 and I made my 1.20 base in late March of 2024. I would eventually make an underground bunker to this base that I would name Deep Light. And I made a YouTube video on the base back when my game was running at 5 frames per second. Also in April of 2024, I made a base in the end. But eventually someone would find my base Deep Light. And I made my next base on the 5th of August 2024 that I named Infinity Base 1. At this base I made a few farms, like a wood farm. And the base was my main base until someone found it on the 4th of April 2025. And thankfully they didn't destroy it, but I knew I needed to move to a new location. The next base I made, I named Infinity Base 2 that I made on the 4th of April 2025. And it is the current base I am at on the server.